It's a sad fact that every 3 minutes, someone disappears without a trace on Earth. The reasons for disappearance can be domestic or criminal, but there is also a special group of reasons why people disappear. These are mysterious and unexplained disappearances that baffle the police and the public. We're going to talk about these cases today. Vanished into nothing. There have been plenty of cases of disappearances throughout history. One of the earliest was recorded in the 17th century in the Greek chronicles. It says that a certain monk from the monastery of Kirilov disappeared right during a meal. The chronicler also wrote about a scandalous tradeswoman who disappeared right on the trading square in front of everyone. The people said that devils took her away. In later times, the most famous disappearance victim was Lucien Goussier, a neighbor of Dr. Bonvillain. It was 1867 in Paris. Lucien came to the doctor in the evening to have someone look at him and consult him about a weakness. Bonvillain told the patient to undress and lie down on the couch so he could do an examination. He went to get the stethoscope on the table. Then he went to the patient's couch, but found no one there, only Goussier's clothes on the chair. The doctor thought that he had gone home and went to the patient himself, but no one answered him. Bonvillain went to the police, but they couldn't find him. Another mysterious case of a missing person occurred in 1880 in America. A local farmer, David Lang, was sitting in his yard with his wife and kids. He noticed his friend's carriage coming up to the house, so he went to meet it. Then, he just disappeared right in front of his family. His wife and neighbors went over to the spot where Mr. Lang had vanished. They looked around, but they couldn't find anything except a patch of yellowed grass. Since that day, the farm animals have avoided that spot. On December 12, 1910, Dorothy Arnold, the 25-year-old niece of a U.S. Supreme Court justice, left her mansion on East 79th Street in New York City at 11 a.m. to buy herself an evening gown. Around 2 p.m., she met a friend, Gladys Skeet, on Fifth Avenue. The girls chatted for a bit and then went their separate ways. Dorothy Arnold gave her friend a cheerful wave goodbye and was never seen again. Similar stories have happened quite often in many different countries. They've happened on land, in the sea, and in the air. They've happened in apartments, on the streets, in forests, fields, and on transportation. For example, 14 people saw a disappearance in the cabin of a bus that was traveling from Albany to Bennington on December 1, 1949. They saw the soldier James Statford sit down in his seat. After the bus drove off, he immediately fell asleep. The bus didn't stop anywhere along the way, and when it arrived in Bennington, James's seat was just a crumpled newspaper and a bag. The police investigation didn't yield any results, as was the case with the 26 years later disappearance of a young woman, Martha Wright, in 1975. Jackson Wright and his wife Martha were driving their car from New Jersey to downtown Manhattan. It was snowing heavily, so they took shelter from the weather in the Lincoln Tunnel. The couple got out to clear the snow from their car. Martha was wiping down the rear window, and Jackson was wiping down the windshield. After finishing the job, Jackson looked up and realized his wife was nowhere to be found. She hasn't been found since. Disappearing into the fog. If we can make sense of the disappearance of one person, it's even more mysterious when it's a whole group. In 1915, during the First World War, the British were fighting in the Balkans. 145 well-trained soldiers from the Norfolk Battalion marched towards the enemy. Their fellow soldiers who remained in position said that suddenly the battalion was enveloped in a thick fog. When the fog cleared, not a single soldier was left. They had simply disappeared into the fog. A year later, a company of German soldiers disappeared thousands of miles away from this place near the French village of Amiens. Mass disappearances. There are documented cases of entire settlements disappearing. In 1930, Joe Label, a mining worker, decided to pay a visit to one of the Eskimo villages located in the north of Canada. He'd worked there before, so Joe went into the village and saw that it was empty with no one there, and there was a kind of eerie silence, as if the villagers had just vanished without finishing their chores. There were fires burning and pots filled with food. At the same time, all the things, including the rifles, which the Eskimos never went far from the village without, stayed put. In the huts, clothes were left unfinished with needles stuck in them. He decided that the inhabitants probably went down the river. He went to the wharf and saw the kayaks there. The most surprising thing was that the Eskimos had left their dogs in the village. The animals were neatly tethered, and they weren't hungry, so the inhabitants had probably disappeared recently. Labelle told the police about the strange occurrence. For a week, the area around the village was searched thoroughly, but the disappeared residents were not found. In 1935, the population of El Mola Island in Kenya just up and disappeared. An airplane was called in to find the missing people of El Mola, but the search was fruitless. On March 5, 1991, at 4 p.m. in Venezuela, a plane took off from Maracaibo International Airport, 350 miles from Caracas. It was a routine flight. After 35 minutes, the plane was scheduled to arrive at another major oil industry center in western Venezuela. However, 25 minutes into the flight, radio contact with the ground broke down. Air traffic controllers received no distress signals, but a news agency released a list of 38 missing, including 1 child and 5 crew members. In the afternoon, a search plane and then a helicopter flew the same course, but saw no sign of the crash. Voice of the Sea. In October 1944, U.S. Coast Guard personnel boarded the Cuban ship Rubicon. They were greeted only by a half-dead dog with no one else on board. The crew's personal belongings were in their cabins. The ship itself was in good order, but it had a broken tow rope and all lifeboats were missing. It was unclear what could have caused the crew to abandon the ship. In 2003, an Australian Coast Guard aircraft discovered the Indonesian schooner Hine 6. The holds were full of mackerel that had been caught. The 14 sailors are still missing. In the same area, but already in 2006, the tanker Gen Senk was found to be completely deserted. In the same year, the Italian Coast Guard detained the 2-masted sailing ship Bellamica off the coast of Sardinia and found no people. Back in January 2008, the Russian Ministry of Transport's press service said that they'd lost contact with a Russian dry cargo ship that was sailing from Nakodka to Hong Kong. Neither the ship nor its 17 crew members have been found since. It wasn't until February of that same year that the Japanese Coast Guard found a deserted salvage motorboat from the missing ship. There have always been such incidents in life, but until now, no one has been able to determine their exact causes. One version arose in 1937 when the hydrographic vessel Taimyr was passing through the Kara Sea. One of the specialists noticed that when he brought a probe balloon filled with hydrogen to his ear, he felt a sharp pain in his eardrum. When he pushed the balloon away, the pain went away. Vasily Shuleikin, a hydrophysicist from the Taimyr, was intrigued by this strange effect. He called it the voice of the sea. Shuleikin believed that during a storm, the wind creates low-frequency infrasound vibrations, inaudible to us, but harmful to humans. These vibrations are amplified at frequencies below 15 Hz, causing disturbances in the brain centers. At frequencies below 7 Hz, a person can even die. Modern research has confirmed that animals and humans experience anxiety and unreasonable fear when exposed to infrasound. Indeed, during a thunderstorm, infrasound is generated at a frequency of about 6 Hz. If the intensity of the vibrations is less than lethal, a wave of unreasonable fear, of terror and panic descends on the ship's crew. This condition intensifies even more if the ship itself, equipped with modern equipment, falls into resonance and becomes a kind of secondary source of infrasound, under the influence of which maddened people rush, scatter, fleeing from the ship. But this is only an assumption. Where people disappear to is still unknown. We can only hope that modern science will have explanations for these strange phenomena. But often, there are many different versions, but all of them are just theories, not supported by any evidence. Some researchers believe that just as black holes form in the universe, they also form in humans at the submolecular level. It is believed that they absorb a person from the inside out, leaving no trace. Or maybe they are sucked in by the time vortex, when people who disappeared in their time appear in the future or the past. What do you think about these strange and mysterious disappearances of people? Is there a reasonable explanation? Don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with the next videos.